My son Marcus held up his glass during my birthday celebration and told everyone with a smile that my life had been worthless. Every guest in the room fell into complete silence, and then he simply walked out the door, leaving me standing there completely humiliated. What he did not know was that I had been planning to give him a house worth $2 million. The words that came out of his mouth were like a sharp knife cutting through all the years I had sacrificed everything for him. But that evening was not where things ended. It was actually the beginning of something new. I made a decision that Marcus and his cold wife Victoria were going to pay the price for how they had neglected me. My revenge was not going to be something I rushed into. It would be fair and justified, and I already knew exactly where I needed to start. Before we move forward, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you are listening from. The restaurant was filled with the sound of glasses clinking together and laughter that seemed forced. But the atmosphere became heavy and oppressive the exact moment Marcus lifted his glass. Those words he spoke, calling my life wasted, still lingered in the air like smoke that was choking the entire room. I tightened my grip on my wine glass, feeling the stem cold against the palm of my hand, and I forced myself to smile even though it felt like my face was cracking apart. The guests, who were a mixture of Marcus's business friends and a few of my old neighbors, just stared down at their plates. The silence that followed screamed louder than any insult ever could. Marcus leaned his body back in his chair with a smirk on his face, his tie hanging loose like he had already won some kind of victory. Victoria, his wife, was sitting beside him, and her diamond earrings were catching the light from the chandelier above. She took a sip from her wine glass, her lips curling up just enough to show that she was enjoying the show. My chest felt like it was burning, but I managed to keep my voice steady. "Are you done?" I asked in a low voice, almost coming out as a growl. He let out a laugh that was sharp and cruel. "Done? Dad, I am just getting started here. You sit there acting like you are some kind of saint. But what do you actually have? This?" He waved his hand around at the restaurant, at the half-eaten cake with "Happy 62nd Birthday" scrolled across it in icing. "You are a nobody. You always were. Victoria, Victoria." The words hit me like a slap across the face, but I did not allow myself to flinch. Not yet anyway. My thoughts went to the deed for the house. $3 million. My entire life savings. It was meant for him and Victoria. It was supposed to be my gift to them, my way of giving Marcus the kind of life I never had the chance to live. But now that deed just felt like a heavy stone sitting in my pocket, completely useless. Victoria leaned her body forward, her voice coming out as smooth as silk. "Robert, we do not need your approval. We have earned our place in life. You." She paused for a moment, her eyes flicking over me like I was nothing more than a stain on her dress. "You are just here." I set my glass down on the table, and the clink it made echoed through the space. "I was going to give you something tonight," I said, my voice remaining calm even though my pulse was hammering inside my chest. "A house, paid in full. But after this." I looked directly at Marcus, then shifted my gaze to Victoria. "Forget it." The entire room froze in that moment. A woman sitting at the next table let out a gasp. Marcus's face twisted up, his cheeks flushing a bright red color. "You are lying," he shouted, slamming his fist down on the table. Wine sloshed out from a glass, staining the white tablecloth like blood spreading across fabric. "You? A house? You are too cheap to buy yourself a new car." I did not give him an answer. I did not need to. The truth was right there in my eyes, and he could see it clearly. His rage began to boil over, and he stood up from his seat, knocking his chair backward in the process. "You are pathetic, Dad. You always play the victim. I am done with you." Victoria grabbed hold of his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. "Let us go, Trev. He is not worth it." She shot me a look that was cold and dismissive, like I was nothing more than garbage that had been left on the curb. They both stormed toward the door, Marcus's shoes making squeaking sounds on the polished floor. The door slammed shut behind them, and the sound was as sharp as a gunshot. The guests started muttering to each other, avoiding my gaze. The waiter stood there hovering, looking unsure of what to do. Then he started clearing the plates from the table. The table looked like a complete mess with crumpled napkins, half-eaten food, and that damn cake that nobody had touched. I sat there by myself. The tick of the restaurant's clock was drilling into my skull. 62 years of living, and this was what I got as my reward. A son who spat in my face. A daughter-in-law who looked at me like I was some kind of relic from the past. I paid the bill, my hands staying steady despite the storm that was raging inside me. The night air hit me as I stepped outside, feeling cool and sharp against my skin. I did not go home. Not yet anyway. I walked through the city, the lights blurring together as my mind kept churning. Marcus's words kept replaying in my head, each one cutting deeper than the last. But something else was stirring inside me. A memory, faint but vivid, of a promise I had made a long time ago. Promise to myself. The house felt too quiet, the kind of silence that presses down on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. I sat down in the living room. The only light came from a lamp that flickered whenever the wind rattled the windows. In my lap sat the family album, its leather cover worn down from years of me handling it. I opened it up and there we were. Me, Catherine, and Marcus all smiling at some picnic that happened long ago. His tiny hand was clutching a balloon. His grin was wide enough to break your heart. I traced my finger over the photo, my thumb smudging the edge of it. Where had that boy gone? My mind slipped back without me wanting it to, back to the day I sold my old Toyota. It was a beat-up thing, but it still ran, and I loved that car. Marcus was 18 years old then, and he had been accepted into a college I could not afford to pay for. I stood in the driveway watching as the buyer drove it away. The cash in my pocket felt like some kind of betrayal. That money ended up paying for Marcus's first semester at college. He hugged me that night, his voice thick with emotion and promise. I will make you proud, Dad. I will pay you back. I believed him. God, I really believed him. I flipped to another page. There was another photo of Marcus at his graduation, his cap tilted to the side, his smile cocky and confident. I had worked double shifts at the firm, crunching numbers until my eyes burned, just to cover his tuition. When his first business flopped, a tech startup he swore was going to change the world, I bailed him out. I wired him $50,000 without thinking twice about it. He called me his hero back then. He said he would never forget what I did for him. The album felt heavier in my hands now. I turned to another page, and there was Catherine's funeral. Marcus stood off to the side, checking his phone while I was shaking hands with the mourners. He did not stay long. Got a meeting, Dad, he mumbled to me. And then he left me standing in that empty church. I had not cried that day. I did not know how to. The silence in the house grew even louder, broken only by the creaking of the floorboards beneath me. I closed the album, my fingers lingering on the cover for a moment. All those years, I had told myself it was worth it. Every late night I worked, every vacation I missed, every dream I put on a shelf and forgot about. They were all for him, for Marcus. And what did I get in return? A son who called me a failure in front of a room full of strangers. My gaze drifted over to the wall, to the clock that Catherine loved so much. Its ticking was relentless, each second serving as a reminder of time I could never get back. I stood up from the couch, and the album slid off my lap onto the cushion. Enough. I had spent too long waiting for Marcus to become the son. I had raised him, but he was not that boy anymore. Maybe he never had been that boy in the first place. I walked across the room to my desk, the floor feeling cold underneath my socks. My laptop was sitting there, its screen dark and silent. I opened it up, and the blue light felt harsh against the dimness of the room. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I did not know exactly what I was searching for, but I knew one thing for certain. I was not going to sit in this silence anymore. Not tonight. Not ever again. The glow from the laptop lit up my face, throwing shadows across the walls of my study. The clock sitting on the shelf kept ticking steady, like a heartbeat, pushing me forward. I typed Marcus's name into the search bar, my fingers moving with purpose. Articles started popping up, his name connected to a string of business deals, each one looking shakier than the one before it. One headline grabbed my attention. Local entrepreneur faces scrutiny over unpaid debts. I leaned in closer, a grim smile pulling at my lips. So Marcus was in trouble. Good. I scrolled through the information, piecing together the mess he had created. His latest venture, some financial technology startup, was losing money fast. Investors were pulling their money out. I remembered him bragging about it last year, all full of confidence and promises about going big. I had warned him it sounded risky, but he had laughed at me and called me out of touch. Now here was the proof sitting right in front of me. He had overplayed his hand. My mind went back to a moment that happened 2 years ago. Marcus, sitting across from me at dinner, boasting about some game-changing deal he had made. I had asked him questions, simple ones about cash flow and contracts. He had snapped at me, told me to stick to my boring spreadsheets. I had let it go back then. I always let things go. Not anymore. I grabbed my phone and dialed Steven, an old friend from my days working as a financial consultant. He picked up on the second ring, his voice gravelly but warm. "Robert, hell, it is late. Are you okay?" "I need a favor," I said, keeping my tone level and even. "Marcus's business. I want details. Off the record." Steven paused for a moment, then let out a chuckle. "Your kid has been playing with fire, has he not? I have heard some whispers. Give me a day. I will dig up what I can." "He is not my kid anymore," I said, the words coming out sharper than I had intended. Steven did not push me on it. He promised to call me tomorrow and hung up. I set the phone down on the desk, my pulse feeling steady for the first time in hours. I pulled a notepad from the drawer, the paper feeling crisp under my pen. I wrote down Marcus, debts, bad deals. Then I wrote Victoria, image, social media. She was an influencer. Her entire life was a curated lie on Instagram. One crack in that facade and she would crumble completely. I had seen her type before. People who lived for likes, not for truth. Her weakness was just as clear as Marcus's was. The pen made a scratching sound as I jotted down ideas. Quiet moves. Nothing flashy or obvious. I was not some cartoon villain from a movie. This was about justice. This was about showing them that I was not the nobody they thought I was. I had spent decades building a life, building a fortune, while they squandered theirs away. They had underestimated me. That was their mistake. I stood up from my chair, crossing over to the study's door. I closed it, and the click sounded solid and final. The room felt different now, like it had transformed into a war room instead of a refuge. The clock kept ticking on, but it did not bother me anymore. It was counting down to something new. I sat back down at the desk, my eyes fixed on the screen. A new article loaded up. There was a photo of Marcus shaking hands with some investor, his smile showing all his teeth. I clicked on it, and there it was. The first thread I needed to pull. The reading room at the library smelled like old paper and dust, the kind of scent that clings to your clothes and stays there. I sat at a corner table, surrounded by stacks of financial journals, their pages yellowed and crisp with age. The clock on the wall kept ticking, each second like a nudge telling me to keep digging. My laptop hummed softly, open to a database of business filings. Marcus's name glared back at me from the screen, tied to a sinking ship of a company. I jotted down a note. Overleveraged. Investors fleeing. My pen, its grip worn smooth from years of use, scratched against the paper. I had spent decades analyzing numbers, spotting cracks in deals that others missed completely. That skill, which had been dormant since I retired, woke up now. Marcus's business was nothing but a house of cards. Big promises with no real substance behind them. I found an article buried deep in a trade journal, detailing a shady loan he had taken out to prop up his startup. The terms were predatory, the kind that bury you alive. I smiled, thin and sharp. He had always been reckless with money. But this? This was a gift handed right to me. My mind went back to a dinner last spring. Marcus, with a glass in his hand, bragging about some bulletproof deal he had made. I had asked him about the lender, and he had snapped at me, told me to mind my own business. I should have pushed harder back then. Instead, I had paid for his wine and let it slide. Never again. I pulled out my phone and called Steven. He answered, his voice sounding low, like he was in the middle of a meeting. "Robert, you are obsessive," he said, half joking. "What now?" "Tell me about Marcus's loan," I said. "The one from that offshore outfit." Stephen let out a sigh. "It is a mess. High interest tied to some sketchy firm. He has missed payments. Word is they are circling around him now. And there is talk of an ethics probe, something about fudged numbers." He paused for a moment. "Are you sure you want to go down this road?" "I am sure," I said, my tone flat and emotionless. Stephen promised me more details and hung up. I leaned back in my chair, and it let out a creaking sound. An ethics probe. That could ruin him completely. The library was quiet except for the rustle of pages turning and the hum of a fluorescent light overhead. I walked over to the copier, feeding it an article about Marcus's deal. The machine whirred, spitting out pages that felt like ammunition in my hands. Back at my table, I started sifting through Victoria's world next. Her Instagram was like a shrine to perfection. Designer bags, curated brunches, sponsored posts everywhere. But the comments told a different story. Brands were dropping her. There were whispers about inflated follower counts. One scandal and her entire empire would crack wide open. I stacked the documents together, their edges uneven, and slid them into a folder. The clock read 3:17 in the afternoon. Time was moving forward, and so was I. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the library's glass doors. I stepped through them, the folder tucked under my arm, and headed to a cafe down the street. My next move was close, so close I could feel it. The corner booth at the cafe was dim, the kind of spot where nobody looks twice at you. My laptop screen glowed, a VPN masking my tracks online. The air smelled like burnt coffee and pastries that had gone stale. I typed carefully, crafting an email to one of Marcus's investors, a man named Patterson who was known for cutting his losses fast. The subject line was simple: "Concerns about your investment." I attached scanned copies of the loan agreement and that damaging article. No signature, no trace, just the facts laid out clearly. I hovered my finger over the send button, keeping it steady. This was it. The first cut. I thought about Marcus's smirk at my birthday party. His voice calling my life wasted. He would laugh at me back then. Let us see him laugh now. I clicked the button. The email vanished into the ether, a silent arrow aimed straight at his heart. My mind drifted back to a moment that happened years back. Marcus crowing about his genius deals, acting like he knew everything. I had warned him about shady partners, but he brushed me off completely. "You are stuck in the past, Dad," he had said to me. Stuck. Maybe I was stuck in the past. But I knew how to play things clean and quiet, skills he never bothered to learn. My phone buzzed, snapping me back to the present moment. Marcus's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring twice. Then I answered, keeping my voice calm and steady. "What? You bastard," he hissed, his words slurring with rage. "You sent that email, did you not?" Patterson just pulled out. "My deal is tanking." I leaned back in the booth, and the vinyl let out a creaking sound. "I do not know what you are talking about," I said, measuring each word carefully. "Sounds like your mess has finally caught up with you." "Do not play dumb with me," he shouted. I heard a crash on his end, something made of glass, maybe a bottle. "You are trying to ruin me." "You are doing that to yourself," I said, and then I hung up. My pulse remained steady. My hands felt cool. I checked my inbox. There was a reply from Patterson's assistant. "Mr. Patterson is reviewing the materials and has paused all commitments." Perfect. The clock in the cafe kept ticking, its hands creeping closer toward evening. Marcus's threat echoed in my mind, but it felt empty. He was scrambling around frantically, and I was just getting started. Victoria was next on my list. Her sponsors would not like what I had found out about her so-called authentic brand. I closed my laptop, and the light from the screen faded away. The door made a jingling sound as I stepped outside. A small recorder sat in my pocket, its weight feeling like a promise of more things to come. The knock on my door was sharp, like a hammer striking steel. I knew who it was before I even opened it. My hand brushed against the recorder in my pocket, its button already pressed down. The living room was dark except for a flickering lamp that cast long shadows across the walls. I opened the door and there they were. Marcus, his face red and twisted with anger. And Victoria, her eyes as cold as frost. The scent of her perfume, sharp and floral, hit me like an insult. "You have gone too far," Marcus spat out, pushing past me into the house. His shoes left scuff marks on the hardwood floor. Victoria followed right behind him, her heels clicking with each step, her purse clutched in front of her like a shield. I closed the door behind them, and the click sounded loud in the tense air. "Sit," I said, gesturing toward the couch. They did not sit down. Marcus started pacing back and forth, his fists clenched tight. Victoria stood rigid like a statue, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You tanked my deal," Marcus said, his voice coming out low and dangerous. "Patterson is gone, and now the bank is calling me. You owe me, Dad. Fix this." I crossed my arms over my chest, my face like a mask. "I owe you? After what you said to me, you called me nothing." Victoria stepped forward, her voice coming out smooth and practiced. "Robert, let us be reasonable. We are family. You do not want to hurt Marcus's future, do you?" Her smile was fake, her eyes calculating everything. I saw right through her act. "Family?" I said, my tone as cold as ice. "Family does not humiliate each other in front of strangers." Marcus slammed his hand against the wall, and the sound was sharp enough to make the room shake. "Enough games. Give me the money to cover the loan, or I will make sure everyone knows what a selfish old man you are." I did not flinch at all. The recorder hummed silently in my pocket, catching every single word. "You are not getting a dime from me," I said. "You made your choices." Victoria's mask slipped away, and her voice turned sharp. "You are pathetic, Robert, hoarding your money while we struggle. You are no father." She turned to face Marcus. "Let us go. He is useless." Marcus glared at me, his breathing heavy and labored. "This is not over. I will bury you." He stormed toward the door with Victoria trailing behind him. The door slammed shut, and the sound echoed through the quiet house. The clock kept ticking, steady and relentless. I pulled the recorder out of my pocket, its red light still glowing steady. I played it back. Their voices came through clear as day. Marcus's threats, Victoria's venom. My lips curved upward, not quite a smile. This was gold. I sat down at my desk, the recorder sitting beside my laptop. The screen woke up with a soft glow, and I opened a new file. Marcus and Victoria thought they could bully me into submission. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The lawyer's office was cramped and small. The air felt thick with the scent of ink and old coffee. Papers teetered in stacks on the desk, and a window air conditioning unit rattled like it was on its last legs. I slid a USB drive across the desk to Daniel, my old friend and occasional legal counsel. His gray eyebrows lifted up as he plugged it into his laptop. The clock on his wall kept ticking, each second serving as a reminder that time was my ally now. I leaned back in the creaky chair, my notebook open in front of me, its pages filled with precise steps written in ink. Daniel played the recording. Marcus's threats, Victoria's venom. His frown deepened with every word he heard. "This is dynamite, Robert," he said, pausing the audio. "But dangerous. Are you sure you want to play this game?" "I am not playing," I said, my voice low and steady. "They crossed a line. I am just evening the score." He nodded his head, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "All right, we can use this, but no fingerprints, anonymous leaks, third parties. You are too close to this situation." He jotted down a note, his pen scratching against the paper. "What is the endgame here?" I did not answer, not fully anyway. My plan was like a mosaic, with pieces falling into place one by one. The recording would be used to discredit Victoria. Pressure on Marcus's creditors would tighten the noose around him. I had spent years untangling financial knots for my clients. Now I would unravel my son's life the same way. "Just make sure it is airtight," I said. Back home, the house was silent except for the clock in the hallway. Its ticking felt like a pulse, steady and sure of itself. I sat down at my desk with the notebook open in front of me. Step 1 was to alert Marcus's creditors about his missed payments, using public records to nudge them into taking action. Step 2 was to leak Victoria's recording to a rival influencer, someone hungry enough to expose her publicly. Each line I wrote in my notebook was like a brick in the wall I was building, a wall that would box them in completely. I thought about Marcus's birthday toast, his smug grin as he called me worthless. The memory stung when I thought about it, but it fueled me too. I had given him everything. My savings, my time, my dreams. And Victoria, with her polished cruelty, had encouraged him every step of the way. They thought I was weak, just a relic from the past. They would learn how wrong they were about me. Daniel called me later, confirming that the first move was ready to go. The creditor letters are drafted, he said. No trace back to you. Send them tomorrow, and they will be on Marcus like vultures. I thanked him and ended the call, my pulse remaining calm. The envelope sat on my desk, addressed to a loan officer who would never know my name. I picked it up, its weight feeling solid and final. Tomorrow, the first domino would fall. The morning sun came through my kitchen blinds, painting stripes across the table. I took a sip of coffee, its bitterness sharp on my tongue, and unfolded the newspaper. The headline screamed out at me. Local entrepreneur faces financial ruin. Marcus's name was printed in bold letters. His photo was grainy but unmistakable, his head down as he dodged cameras outside his office. I set the mug down on the table, a quiet satisfaction settling into my chest. The clock kept ticking, each sound like a nail being hammered into his coffin. I had mailed the letter to Marcus's creditors 2 days earlier. It was a carefully worded tip about his unpaid debts, all pulled from public records. Nothing that could be traced back to me. They had moved fast, demanding immediate repayment from him. Stephen called me as I scanned through the article, his voice sounding grim. It is a bloodbath, Robert. Marcus's office is like a ghost town. Creditors froze all his accounts. He is done. Good, I said, flipping to the next page. What else? Stephen hesitated for a moment. He is fighting with Victoria. I heard them at a bar last night. She was screaming about her brand, about how he is dragging her down. He let out a dark chuckle. They are cracking apart. I remembered Marcus at 25 years old, his eyes bright with ambition, promising to build an empire. I had believed in him back then. I poured money into his first venture. When it tanked and failed, he blamed everyone except himself. You are too cautious, Dad, he had said to me. Cautious. That caution was my weapon now. The article laid out all of Marcus's faults in detail. Investors bailing out, contracts getting canceled, a lawsuit looming on the horizon. I leaned back in my chair, and it let out a creaking sound. Every word in that article was a brick I had laid myself. Every failure of his was a step closer to justice. Stephen's voice cut through my thoughts. You did not hear this from me, but Marcus is begging everyone for a bailout. Nobody is biting. Let him beg, I said, and hung up the phone. I opened my laptop, and the screen woke up with a soft glow. Social media was buzzing with Marcus's name everywhere. Mocking memes, angry comments from former business partners. He was unraveling right before everyone's eyes, and I was watching from the sidelines, completely untouched. But Victoria was still standing. Her Instagram remained a facade of calm. That would not last much longer. I thought about the recording I had, her voice dripping with contempt on it. One move from me and her sponsors would scatter like frightened birds. I clicked over to a rival influencer's profile, someone who had a grudge against Victoria and a big audience. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to strike. The living room was dark. The only light came from my laptop screen. I had sent the recording to a blogger named Rachel, a rival who had clashed with Victoria online before. The email was anonymous. The file was untraceable. Now I scrolled through Victoria's Instagram page. Her latest post was a desperate plea. Ignore the lies. I am still your girl. The comments underneath were brutal. Fans were turning on her. Sponsors had gone silent. Her phone, I imagined, was dark, its screen acting as a mirror reflecting her fading influence. The clock on the mantel kept ticking, counting down her reign. Rachel had moved fast. She had posted the recording last night. Victoria's voice came through clear as day. He is useless, pathetic. The clip spread like wildfire, racking up views by the thousands. Brands dropped Victoria within hours of it going viral. Their logos vanished from her profile one by one. I leaned back against the couch, and it let out a creaking sound. I let a small smile form on my face. She had called me invisible at a party once, her laugh as sharp as breaking glass. Invisible. Not anymore. I thought back to that night, her standing next to Marcus, both of them mocking me in front of their friends. I had swallowed the hurt back then. I went home and sat in the same room. Now the silence felt different, felt powerful, like the calm that comes before a storm hits. I refreshed the page. A new post appeared from Victoria. It was a shaky video. This is a misunderstanding. I am not that person. Her mascara was smudged down her face. Her voice sounded thin and desperate. The comments tore her apart even more. Stephen called again, his tone gleeful and excited. Victoria is done, Robert. No sponsors. No invites to events. She is radioactive now. He paused for a beat. You are playing a hell of a game. No game, I said, my voice staying even. Just consequences. I hung up the phone, my eyes fixed on the screen. A news site was running a story. Influencers fall shocks Denver elite. Victoria's photo stared back at me, her smile looking forced and fake. I closed the laptop, and the click sounded sharp in the quiet house. I stood up, stretching my body, and glanced over at the clock. It was late, but I was not tired. Marcus and Victoria were cornered now. Their lives were crumbling under the weight of their own greed. I had planned every single step of this, and it was working exactly as I intended. But I was not done yet. Not yet. A knock at the door broke through the silence. It was hard and urgent. My pulse quickened, but I did not flinch at all. I knew who it was. I crossed the room, my step steady, and reached for the handle. The knock came again, harder this time, rattling the door frame. I stood in the dim hallway. The clock on the wall was ticking like a metronome. My hand rested on the knob, steady as I pulled the door open. Marcus and Victoria stood there on my doorstep, soaked from the rain. Their faces looked drawn and desperate. Marcus's shirt clung to his body, wrinkled and disheveled. The collar was askew. Victoria's makeup was streaked down her cheeks. Her eyes were red and hollow-looking. The scent of wet asphalt followed them inside, sharp against the warmth of my house. Dad, Marcus started, his voice cracking with emotion. We are sorry. We were wrong. Please. He stepped forward, his shoes making squelching sounds. Victoria clutched her purse tight, her knuckles turning white. You have got to help us, she said, her tone coming out soft, almost pleading. But her eyes betrayed a flicker of calculation behind the desperation. I did not move from where I stood. The memory of Marcus's toast burned bright in my mind. His smirk, his words, your life is a waste. I saw Victoria's cold smile in my memory, her dismissal of me as nothing. Now here they were, broken and begging for help. Help you, I said, my voice low and even. After what you did to me? Marcus's face twisted up in anguish. We lost everything. The business, the sponsors, everything is gone. His hands were shaking, and he ran one through his wet hair. You did this, did you not? But I am your son. You cannot just destroy me. Victoria touched his arm, her voice coming out smoother now. Robert, we are family. You are better than this. Let us fix it together. Her words were sweet like honey, but they rang hollow, like a script she had rehearsed over and over. I stepped back, my gaze hard and unforgiving. The ticking of the clock filled the silence between us. You made your choices, I said. You spat on everything I gave you. Family? You do not know the meaning of it. Marcus lunged forward, his voice rising in desperation. You are heartless. You ruined us. I held up my hand, stopping him cold in his tracks. Victoria grabbed his sleeve, her nails digging into the fabric. But her eyes stayed fixed on me, searching for a crack in my resolve. She found none. "Get out," I said, each word coming out deliberate and clear. "You are not welcome here." Marcus's jaw dropped open, his breath coming out ragged. Victoria's face hardened, her mask slipping away. "You will regret this, Robert," she hissed at me, but her voice trembled as she spoke. I opened the door wider. The rain's patter hit against the porch outside. They hesitated for a moment, then turned to leave. Marcus was muttering something under his breath. The door closed with a heavy thud, locking them out on the other side. The silence that followed was thick and unbroken, except for the clock's steady rhythm continuing on. I walked to the living room, my steps slow and measured. On the mantel sat a framed photo of Catherine, her smile soft and timeless. I touched the glass, my fingers lingering there. "You would have hated this, I murmured to her. "But it is done." The weight of the night settled over me, but it was not heavy. It was final. The sun blazed over the community center. Its lawn was dotted with colorful balloons and banners. A crowd milled about, their chatter sounding warm and excited. I stood at a podium, the microphone cool in my hand. A bronze plaque gleamed behind me. Catherine Greenwood Foundation. The air smelled like fresh grass and hope. The clock tower nearby was ticking, its sound faint but present, a reminder of time moving forward into the future. I cleared my throat, and the crowd grew quiet. "This foundation," I said, my voice steady and clear, "is for families who need a hand up, for kids who deserve a chance. It is Catherine's dream, and today it is real." Applause erupted through the crowd, hands clapping together, faces smiling at me. I scanned the crowd carefully. Neighbors, strangers, a few old colleagues from my working days. No Marcus, no Victoria, just people who believed in this cause. Catherine's face flashed in my mind, her laugh, bright as sunshine, as we planned a future of giving back to others. We had never gotten there together, but I was here now, honoring her memory. My chest tightened with emotion, but I pushed through it, shaking hands as people approached me afterward. A young mother thanked me, her son clutching a scholarship letter in his small hands. "This changes everything," she said, her eyes shining with tears of joy. I nodded, words caught in my throat, unable to speak. An organizer, a wiry man named Paul, leaned in close as the crowd started to thin out. "Heard your son is in rough shape," he whispered to me. "Skip town, they say." I shrugged, keeping my face neutral. "That is his story, not mine." Michael nodded, letting the subject drop. The rumors did not matter to me. Marcus and Victoria were shadows now. Their lives had become a cautionary tale for others. The ceremony ended, and I walked to my car. The sun felt warm on my back. The foundation was funded with millions from my savings, built over decades of quiet discipline and careful planning. I had never flaunted my wealth. I never needed to. Now it was Catherine's legacy, not just mine. The thought steadied me, like a hand resting on my shoulder. I reached my car, pausing at the mailbox nearby. A single envelope was waiting there. The handwriting was unmistakably Marcus's. My fingers brushed against it, the paper feeling rough. I slipped it into my pocket without opening it. The clock tower chimed, its notes carrying on the breeze. I was not ready to read his words. Not yet, maybe not ever. The memorial garden was quiet. The stone marker for Catherine was glowing in the fading light. I sat down on a bench. The air felt cool, carrying the faint scent of smoke. In my hand was Marcus's letter, its edges creased from my grip on it. I had read it once in the car. His words were a jumble of excuses and pleas. "Meet me, Dad. I can fix this." I shook my head. The paper was trembling slightly in my hand. Fix what? The years of disdain? The betrayal? There was nothing left to mend between us. I struck a match. The flame was small but fierce. The letter caught fire fast, curling into ash that drifted down to the ground. The fire felt right. cleansing, like shedding a weight I had carried for too long. The clock on my wrist kept ticking, its rhythm a quiet promise of days ahead. I thought of Catherine, her dream of seeing Italy. Cobblestone streets, warm cafes filled with laughter. We had planned it together, but life got in the way back then. Now I would go for both of us. Earlier, I had called a travel agent, my voice firm and decided. 1 ticket to Rome, I said. Next month. The agent chirped excitedly about itineraries, but I barely listened. My mind was already there, walking through history, feeling free. The thought brought a smile to my face, small but real. I stood up, brushing ash from my hands, and approached the memorial. The stone felt cold under my fingers. Catherine's name was carved deep into it. I did it, I whispered to her. I am free. The words hung in the air, soft against the silence. Marcus and Victoria were gone. Their lives were a distant echo now. I did not need to know where they were or what they would do next. They had built their own ruin. I had built my peace. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. I walked to my car, the gravel crunching underfoot. In my mind, Rome was waiting. Its bustle, its warmth, its promise of a life unburdened by the past. The clock ticked on, each second a step toward something new. I slid into the driver's seat. The engine hummed to life beneath me, and I drove into the dusk. The road ahead was wide open. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.